For those joining us, you're most welcome. In this session, we want to discuss issues around identifying innovative financing models for infrastructure rollout. We are going also to discuss strategies that can increase local participation in those projects, and also share the successes and challenges, because as you can see from these panelists, they've got a wealth of experience around infrastructure rollout. So first off is to ask Thomas about what is the government's plan in expansion of digital infrastructure to bridge the digital divide. Over to you, Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Olubengo. And once again, good afternoon. Under the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, one of the pillars is on connectivity. And this is derived from the desire by government to bridge the digital divide through a very ambitious plan we call Digital Superhighway, derived from Digital Master Plan 2022 to 2032, focusing on rolling out 100,000 kilometers of fiber. We've had conversation as government asking ourselves, beyond just having 100,000 kilometers of fiber, what would this fiber do? And thus convert the thinking around the 100,000 kilometers of fiber to 100,000 institutions to be connected, public institutions, schools, health facilities, and any government facility that requires we as citizens to access government information and also improve the learning experience for our learners. Coupled to that is 25,000 public Wi-Fi hotspots across our public spaces in the markets, bus stations, or any public space for ease of access. Because as government, we want to digitize government services. And with digitization of government services, the foundation to access this service is the digital infrastructure, which is connectivity. And also build 1,450 digital hubs, one hub in every ward. And therefore, these institutions or these digital hubs will take us closer, will bring connectivity services closer to the citizens. What has government done then to realize this particular ambitious plan? Under collaboration with CA through the Universal Service Fund, there's funds that have been set aside to support the initial rollout of the infrastructure, building the backbone infrastructure. But then under the Digital Master Plan, we look at the 100,000 kilometers and ask ourselves, will that be done by government alone? We say no. Then the question comes in, how then would private sector come in to ensure that we build this infrastructure together, co-design, co-build, and ultimately use these resources together for the betterment of the country. When you look at the Digital Master Plan, it puts 52,000 kilometers to government and 48,000 kilometers to private sector, with the thinking that government can do backbone and middle mile, and then private sector does the last mile. But we realize again, by looking at the infrastructure that the energy sector has done, we realize that Kenya Power has connected close to 9 million homes, meaning there's a potential of all those homes to be connected to internet. And of course beyond, because there are other sources of energy. And so we see an opportunity for private sector to come in and connect these homes. As we speak, I think fixed enterprise connection as per CA data is close to 2 million now, meaning there's another set of close to 7 million potential homes to be connected with fixed internet. There's a program that government runs currently with the support of World Bank we call Kenya Digital Economic Acceleration Project. In this project, there's a scope for connectivity. And this model brings a resource of around 220 million USD, but desiring to co-build and co-design with private sector and see whether we can be able to crowdsource another financing and fill the financing gap of 100 million USD by working together with private sector. I believe this conversation that we're going to have with the panelists here would be able to inform, to ask us, because we don't have private sector and public sector government. We are one government, meaning if we're able to build together infrastructure that we can all use, then we'll be able to leapfrog the current status in terms of connectivity and bridge the digital divide as a country and move our country to the next level. When we talk about other use cases, all the use cases in the digital space will require connectivity. And therefore, this conversation, both in terms of design and financing, becomes quite critical to move this country to a digitally driven economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas, for that deep dive. He's actually from ICT Authority, the implementing arm of some of these projects. With that background, I want to ask Ulrike, what is a global best practice that is available for government of Kenya to realize this very ambitious plan?
Thank you. Yeah, coming from...
Wait, is your...
Is it... It's not loud enough, no? Better?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. Good. Best practice, there is no one best practice. It all depends. A typical answer of a consultant, as you know. It depends how to get... The question is how to get also the private sector to finance infrastructure, which is at first place not commercially viable because it goes more into rural areas. It is not bringing the return on invest. The banks will look at bankable business cases. So this is a challenge. We've seen in my experience looking into public and private investments, into joint investments. I've been sitting with many investors, with the public side and the investors on large-scale projects, and there's always this question from the private side: what is the guarantee on revenues you can bring in? What is the long-term viability of the plan? Do you have a plan that future investments, the maintenance of the network, etc., will be covered by the investment so that the investment doesn't get forgotten, the maintenance and upgrade of the network doesn't get forgotten, because many publicly financed and privately financed networks, or co-financed networks, co-built networks, show some disadvantages. They fail. They fail very, very often. If you look in international examples, I've seen some examples in Latin America. Also, we know that not all in Africa are the best ones. So we really need to look into answering the right questions to the private sector. Now, if you look into, just one example, one big example is in the Mexican case, where the government decided to hand out a concession title to private investors to roll out network. One was a mobile network, and the other one was a fixed network or fiber network. And the mobile network was a wholesale-only network, a concession title. They gave the spectrum, the 700 megahertz spectrum. I know we talked today about the fiber network, but mobile is also important, or similar. And even though they got all the nice spectrum, the 700 megahertz, the business case didn't work out. Now, this is again, why do these business cases not work out? Because there's not sufficient acceptance of certain business models. So the right business model needs to be chosen, a successful business model where the public contributes. For example, the public side contributes harmonized, we discussed it before, rights of way. The public brings also the right policy environment. Important is open access, especially when we talk about backbones. You have an open access policy that the one who is operating the network should also provide it to the retail service providers. So that's the principle of open access. This is a key success factor. And also the collaboration with the utilities or other infrastructure rollouts like railway, roads, etc. needs to be carefully planned together so that you really make sure that the investment is going to have a return later on. In the last mile, that's even more difficult. Here you have other best practices, but I think that takes a bit too much time to elaborate. But the principles is clear. Show the private sector and the banks financing it that there is a viability, not only in terms of return on investment, but also in terms of the framework, the policies around, the conditions around are the right ones.
Okay, thank you very much for your insight. What I get is that it's not just about the infrastructure, it's about the whole ecosystem, the policy framework, the investors, the sustainability of that investment. All that has to be worked out. Thank you very much. And my next question goes to Ben Roberts. He didn't mention it, but he's been the boss of Liquid Telecom for many years. So he's probably best placed to tell us some of the challenges and risks of investing in last mile infrastructure. Over to you, Ben.
Hi, yeah, is this working? Yeah. So look, I think the ambitions of Kenya to build a network of 100,000 kilometers of fiber is a good one, right? But I'm speaking as the only person in the room who has built a network of 100,000 kilometers of fiber. You know, to the challenges that Ulrike's talking about, you really do need to think you've got problems around financing it from the beginning, and where is the money coming from? You've then got problems around building it properly, you know, doing it right, and doing it right and doing the right thing as well as you're doing it, making sure that you are building it with health and safety, cutting corners. So that's really important. But then the problems really start, right? Then you've got to worry about putting network services on it, putting products on it, putting products that people love and people want to pay for. And you've got to sell it to your customers, and then you see what else they can do with it. So there's a whole bunch of things you have to do to make successful projects, and different types of public-private partnerships work. In experiences we've had, I've done good, successful PPPs with power companies. But then also in one country, well, I won't name it here, but I was just telling my friend here, in one country, we signed an agreement with a power company, and then the government, gave a concession to do a deal with the power company, and then they didn't give a license to the power company in the partnership, having done this deal. And the deal was signed, company was created, people were employed. So you can't be changing your mind, right? I think it's what is really important about Kenya is that this is a presidential manifesto item, and there's no changing your mind. I mean, everybody has to get this done, and there's no choice. So I think everybody in the private sector recognizes that. But we've got an immediate set of challenges right now that are holding back investment. Number one would be this issue of way leaves and counties, and counties putting up way leaves. They just change in Gazette. We're doubling the way leave costs, or we're charging this much. Strange things. They're turning up. There's a school I connected once, and I'm still in the WhatsApp group with the teacher. I get this message in the morning, Kilimani Primary, the internet is down, and I don't think anything of it. And I hear that Nairobi City Council have turned up in Ardwings Kodik Road, and they're cutting fibers off the poles because they say someone hasn't paid their bill. And it's not the people who own the fiber. They just, it's absolute vandalism so we have not got an aligned government, right? So the government needs to align. You can't be having arms of government who are, Treasury taking loans and ICTA rolling out projects, and other arms of government are sabotaging that. We can't be having that happening at all. Right? We all have to recognize this is what's going to happen. This is the future. Other issues of, financing is, currency fluctuations, right? So telcos across Africa. Kenya has, it had a big currency fluctuation, but it came back to something which is still a jump. But other countries see Nigeria, Zambia, others, you've had huge currency fluctuations. So people have built infrastructure, they've taken US dollar loans, built infrastructure, and they're getting revenue in local currency, and they can't just double the prices when the currency drops. So, you know, that's a big challenge. Competition is good. I wouldn't even call that a challenge, but it is now, what has happened is that those popular routes or popular areas where the business is, where you've seen as the profitable areas, now you've got oversupply in those areas. And that's becoming a bit chaotic. If you go and see, around Westlands or something in Nairobi, you'll see, a bit of a chaos and what is becoming a potential risk of mismanagement of fiber. Many people in the same places, in the same manholes, on the same poles, and it's becoming roadworks going on at the same time. It's becoming a problem. And then in the rural areas, no one's there because the customer is not there. So there is an opportunity, and I'm looking forward to hearing from KPLC. But I know they have a lot of, there are many more. We're talking about 100,000 kilometers of fiber, but it was almost 3 times that of last mile power networks. But also, we just need to think about the how we build networks. The topology of power grid networks is not the same as that of fiber networks. Power grid networks tend to run in sort of star formations, dividing out, like a spider web. Whereas fiber, for various reasons of uptime, we build in rings. So we've got to think about the way we design and be a bit careful. We can still use those assets, but we do have to think about carefully about what we do. They're the main ones. I think if public-private partnerships need to work where everybody is understanding what their business is, and it's okay even government having entities that are doing business, that's also fine, but everybody's got to play fairly, right? It's got to be a fair playing field, and we have an independent regulator who is regulating all of the state-owned licensed operators as well as the private sector ones. It's not the same in every country in Africa. In some countries that they're not an independent regulator, so we have the benefit of that in Kenya. So
okay, thanks a lot, Ben, on those insights. The big one I took away is one county government knocking out the infrastructure of private sector for whatever reason. So you need to have a coordinated approach at both levels of government. I want to bring in Dennis from KCB Financial aspects. Kenyans have been abused or accused rather of being focused on land. If you have some lose 200,000 to spare, you'd rather buy land than invest in an ISP or some infrastructure project. So what contribution can the financial institution play in filling such a gap? Do you as banks see an opportunity in infrastructure investments? Over to you, Dennis.
Thank you. So maybe just to soften the conversation a bit before I go to what KCB is actually doing to support and finance these infrastructure projects. Now that the morning was predominantly focused on AI and we've gone deep on last mile infrastructure, I'd just like to break it a bit, to detour a little bit about, from the morning. So there's my favorite writer is called Noah Yuval Harari, and he writes a lot of books about, he's a historian, he's an Israeli historian who has written a lot of books about technology and the future. So in my favorite book, which he calls Homo Deus is a history of tomorrow, essentially. He says that increasingly with growth of AI and technology and advancements in automation, there will be a rise in a mass of the useless class. So those are very extreme statements, but we learn a lot from these extreme statements. In those statements, he basically tries to drive the point that with extreme automation and AI adoption, In the future, there will be people who will be technologically unemployable, meaning that some jobs will be so digitized that without understanding of AI and these automation technologies, we'll find ourselves with a mass of people who are technologically unemployable. It even goes ahead to say, even once post-unemployment, there'll be a mass of people who will be who not just unemployed, but unemployable, meaning that they can't get a job. And goes on to drive other conspiracy theories about the balance of power. Although we sit in the US today, that power will be centralized in a few tech companies that will drive technology. And essentially we'll have a mass of people who are useless politically and economically. Okay, very extreme views. But in those views, we really find ourselves in Africa in a situation where, as we've been busy trying to fight literacy and getting the masses educated, people getting into formal employment, things have radically shifted into AI, and even just with formal education, it's not going to be enough. So what this conference is discussing and what we're discussing here is not a specific individual's problem. It's a problem that we need to solve as a society to ensure that we don't become useless in the future world, and that we build communities, societies and individuals that are productive and able to add value economically and politically in future. So I thought to just tee off with those views, just to show how important this topic is. Now, as KCB, a financial services group, as you know, we are present in 7 countries, and we offer financial services across board. Why is this financial inclusion, sort of digital inclusion, critical to us? Because for financial services, we drive financial inclusion. Now, there can be no financial inclusion without digital inclusion, which basically means that for us to achieve our objective as a financial services company, we need this last mile infrastructure available to every home, every community, every individual, so that we can actually then offer them financial services to better their lives. So it's a very critical topic to us, and you would have seen that KCB is basically the only bank who sponsored this event. It's really at the core of what we believe and are as a business. So what exactly are we doing as KCB? So we've got different financial models that look to provide financing support to the entire ecosystem. So as you have seen, it's not a single individual. There's the ICTA that has gotten development finance, and they are building half of it, and they want private sector to come in. As my colleagues on the panel have said, financial institutions, the first thing is always, is it a bankable project? Is it commercially viable? And for that, for those entities like the big telcos and ISPs, we are already providing them access to finances if they need to finance where they don't have capital through our normal lending products. But we also have other models that sort of look to soften where viability could be a problem, or where we have private sector players, ISPs, that probably need better interest rates. For example, in the last 6 months, KCB has signed an agreement with BII for development capital that is focused on specific sectors. These include energy, utilities, and transport. So for those types of entities that, and of course, last mile is part of the utility infrastructure. So for those businesses, we've got development capital, which will have some interest, but at a much better interest rate than market rate. So that model will work for those entities. We also have a lot of programs today funding green initiatives, and we can tap from that as well. Together with the foundation, we already have programs supporting the schools that Thomas talked about. So we have the foundation supporting over 1,000 schools countrywide. We are solarizing them, providing them funding opportunities that are friendly to a school in the rural areas that can then support that kind of initiative. So with the same program, we can bring on board opportunities to also provide capital, patient capital, to entities that are looking to achieve the same objectives as we are, that really contributes as part of our ESG strategy. So broadly, that's what we're doing in financial services as KCB, and this we are not just doing in Kenya. As I said, this is a group-wide initiative, and we are present indeed in 7 countries in Africa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis, for confirming that you finance more than the traditional, type of investments, Mugunda and, construction of houses. It's good to hear. My MC tells me we have actually been added 30 minutes. So with your indulgence, we can finish at 6. And it gives us an opportunity to entertain questions from the floor. But before we do that, I want to turn to engineer here from Kenya Power, who has been also pulling fiber across the traditional power poles. Maybe you could tell us how the industry is preparing itself to leverage on this grand initiative of rolling out communication infrastructure. Daniel.
Thank you very much. First of all, I must congratulate the Ministry of ICT through ICTA for bringing together all the agencies in the country that deal with fiber. That was the first step towards this leveraging, because as we speak, the government, through those agencies, has invested a lot of fibers. And the truth is that it's an over investment with more than 50% lying idle for so long. So if this idle capacity is utilized by the industry, the services will be available and most probably at a very cheap price. That is the first thing. And it is very important for that to be exploited. So the director here put all the agencies in one room. They crafted, they went through a vigorous research on the areas that require to be exploited, and for you to be able to for them to be able to exploit that, they had to come up with the total number of kilometers already built, and then try to come up with a common tariff. There is already a draft, and I know director will steer this ahead very soon. It's almost agreed upon. When that common tariff is agreed upon, the industry will exploit that reserve, that excess capacity that he has already installed. Right now, the ITA is investing in 48 cores. And remember, 1 core is enough to connect 2 cities, or even more, 1 core. Now, if you have 48, you already have excess capacity.
This is 48 cores to each county?
48 cores everywhere. That is what director is doing. But to your home, you only need 2 cores. The last mile. The technology that is being used, called FTTH, has even more capacity, because that 1 core can be utilized by so many users through that technology. So there is a lot of leveraging that can be done using the infrastructure that is being invested. We have the neutral, the agency that regulates that industry, CA. It has come in very strongly to ensure that that infrastructure can be shared. So KPLC, for example, just to give an illustration, KPLC, as Ben Roberts preempted, has a combined, a total length of infrastructure over 350,000 kilometers. You can imagine. And
This is the power lines.
the power lines. And KPLC itself is only utilizing around 10,000 kilometers of that. So there is over 300,000 kilometers that actually distribute power to your homes that can be exploited. If we combine that with KETRACO and railways and the pipeline, the big task that looks so big right now can be achieved in a very short while. And that is what the better agenda came up with. I think you know that before there was undergrounding. It has a lot of work to be done. Let me not use the word disadvantage, although I have mentioned it. It has more disadvantages over aerial. And for example, on Kenya power lines, there is an added advantage of security. Because once you put it up there, you have to come to training school, KPLC training school, to be able to climb up. So there is that particular one very important advantage, that it will not be having a lot of vandals. I know the other telcos have been installing it below the lines, and vandals have interfered with it. But KPLC is installing the cable that the government has requested us to assist with above the power lines, presenting a very important protection. So together, I have just started with the agencies. All the other ISPs, majority of them, right now we have over 70 of them. They are riding on the KPLC infrastructure to come to your homes. I think all of you know. The only thing as KPLC we require to do is to get more organized on the pole. There are rules. We have very nice rules, but the ISPs, if you are seated there, you know what you are doing. You don't follow the rules. And that is why every Kenyan has seen the clumsy, the untidiness that is there on the poles. But if we sit in one room, and I know director and C are able to put us in one room, those poles will be very clean, and you will not have interferences to your internet. For now, thank you very much. I think we will continue with the debate.
Thank you, Daniel, for sharing what KPLC is doing in as far as extending communication infrastructure to the last mile. I want, since we've been added some time, I want to get back to Thomas on the financing models. At some point you had said that the investment model is about government putting in 1 shilling. How do we get private sector to also put in its own shilling, so that the rollout can happen jointly? Would you like to explore further on that and elaborate, particularly even with KPLC model? How can that come in? Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Walubengo, for that question. I think most importantly is looking and focusing on the conversation that Ulrike spoke about. That as we move forward, there are better financing model that as a country, through the Kenya Digital Economic Acceleration Project, we would wish to employ. And I think most of the ISPs were here. We had a conversation together sometime last year at Norfolk and this year at Stanley, trying to have a conversation and ask ourselves, how can we be able to move forward together to realize this? One of the proposals is what we call private capital mobilization. And in this, the proposal that we have is have, in a model of reverse auction, first and foremost, identify areas that we want to extend this fiber connection, so that then we all agree, government and private sector looks and say across the country, for us to be able to bridge the digital divide, these are areas that we are missing some links. And we all know that while government focuses on the common good in terms of investment, private sector would look at return on investment. And therefore, we have to come at some point of convergence and look at these missing links and ask ourselves, and this is a conversation that we are picking with DataCon, and ask ourselves and yourself in private sector, that which are these areas that are economically viable? And private sector has already planned in the midterm to invest, already investing. Which are these other areas that are, yes, economically viable, but probably private sector are not ready to invest. But then government, under the model that we currently have and the little resources of funding that we have, are willing to invest. And we are saying, private sector, you can bring forward and slide forward your strategic plan of 5-year plan to 2 years. So that then the funds or the investment that you would have done 5 years, we are saying we want to invest together. How? In this model, when we identify a route, say from point X to Y, government is ready to put a certain amount of funding. And we say, who in the private sector considers this route as important to them? And then you bid through a very competitive process, but a model we call reverse auction. That you are saying, what amount would you wish government to put? And then you top up. And then with that, because the other question would be on sustainability, then that has to be pegged also with support and maintenance or operational costs, so that then in terms of cost sharing or using this resource, there'll be some share that will belong to government and some share that the private entity or the ISP who has succeeded to bid would be utilizing to commercialize and also do support and maintenance. It becomes a win-win solution. So there'll be a journey, Walubengo, that we are going to have in the next 6 months to a year together with private sector. First and foremost, to identify and agreed upon missing links. We as government have already identified. We decided to reach each and every institution across the country. There'll be model of using existing government infrastructure. There'll be model of getting pre-purchase from private sector where they are. There'll be areas that we all have to put in some amount of money. But depending on the viability of these particular areas, different ISPs and MNOs will bid. And then probably consider alternative technology like low Earth orbit satellite for the interim. Because in this, our desire ultimately is to connect every institution across the country. We therefore challenge all of us, for those who are approaching the end of their financial year, as you plan and put down your procurement plans for the next financial year, 2 years, 3 years, consider to set aside funds. But I thank Volemi. KCB is ready to also give you, if you don't have funds, to support this process so that then we can work this journey together of bridging the digital divide. And as the world says they are going digital, every citizen has access to this particular connectivity we are discussing. So there's sufficient space and opportunity for all of us to invest. And I think it's a welcome idea for us as a country to work together, private sector and public sector, to co-build and have a properly wired or fibered country in the next few years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. You sound more like a financial engineer, not an electrical engineer. And that's very passionate. You've heard from him how to finance infrastructure project. What I take from that intervention is something called reverse auction. I will ask, is it ChatGPT to give me more details on that one. Before I invite questions from the floor, I want to Ulrike to tell us something about the insights that DataCon has so far noted within the Kenyan context. As a consultant, what have you noted? Because sometimes as Kenyans, we are deep down there, it becomes very difficult to spot the issues. What have you seen so far within the Kenyan context?
Okay, thank you. Let's give a bit more of a background. DataCon has been awarded through a competitive procurement process to support ICT Authority of Kenya in the design of the so-called Commercial Transaction Manual. this commercial transaction manual is going to, the scope of the assignment is about designing the commercial model, how private and public sector should cooperate in the different types of investments. Let it be the backbone, the middle mile, the last mile, the internet connectivity, etc. So how to shape the different commercial model, who does what in the future. And based on that, we will help designing the transaction manual, meaning the guidelines on how to allocate the public funds to the different bidders in the future. So it will be very much about this multi reverse MRR. I always use the abbreviation. So it is a reverse auction where the private sector, as you already outlined a bit, is applying for a certain subsidy to invest in a specific mile link, for example. So this is the way we design the commercial transaction manual, that this is a transparent process with the rules, the policies behind, the steps behind, and also the mechanisms of the auction for the different types of the fiber network, for the different sectors, in order to have this. So now, during this course of the assignment, we started with the assignment. We are like first third of the assignment is done. We have been conducting interviews. My colleagues, the team, I think even as we speak, they are out there to speak with different potential investors. And now here comes the answer to your question. We have seen a lot of willingness to support. So I feel the same enthusiasm we have here in the panel from different sectors, that there's willingness to invest into this fiber infrastructure in order to bridge the digital divide and to really make a difference to Kenya. And it's also seen that ICT Authority is together with the World Bank has a strong proposition, I would have to say. So with the World Bank funding, you will everyone sees that this is really, I mean, 200 million and more is a huge number. Yeah, you can build whole networks for that money. So in smaller countries maybe, but so the willingness is there. They see that there's a lot of also from the public side, a lot of collaboration in place. So it's also great, and we see, let's structure a little bit the different types of stakeholders. We have the mobile network operators in Kenya, like Safaricom, Airtel. We have Liquid, we have Baobab, we have the smaller ISPs like Zuku, and I don't know all the names by heart, Yummy, and so those new fiber FTTH companies who have been very successful rolling out FTTH in the recent years. They all willing to participate in different sectors. So the ISPs go more to the last mile or to the communities, whereas the bigger MNOs and telcos go more for the long haul and also to the digital to the cross border in connectivity, because they also see that the future of Kenya being a digital hub, there's a lot of investment necessary for data centers and their connectivity, providing services to landlocked countries, neighboring countries of Kenya. So that's definitely very important. We will still have some other interviews with the satellite operators, with the hyperscalers. Google has been in Africa, and Meta has been in Africa with fiber investments to see if they would also team up in a more public-private cooperation for fiber infrastructure.
Okay, thank you for painting a positive picture about Kenya. I can't wait for communication rollout to my village county where my parents live. We do have a telco signal, but you really have to search for it in a certain corner of the compound. So these interventions with KPLC, because we do have Kenya Power electricity coming, but the communication bit is still a challenge. So we as Kenyans wish that what we're discussing here becomes a reality sooner than later. Just checking on my time, we have 10 minutes, so I'll probably invite questions from the floor. The first three, just put up your hand. We have one here, two there. Do we have a third? Third, yeah. Just your name, organization, and if you can target your question to specific panelists or make it general, no problem. Because of time, don't give a speech, just shoot direct. Let's start with number 1, 2, then 3. Roving mic. Roving mic. You can borrow mine.
Thank you. I think thank you, speakers, for that discussion. My name is Jeff from Kinder Engineering Works. I have been in this space for some time as a contractor to support Liquid and Safaricom and others. But now, as we migrate to become an ISP, one of the greatest challenges that I've seen that is posing a very big risk, and I don't know how you can address this, is vandalism. You put a fiber and the following day you find the whole cable 1 kilometer has gone and you don't know where to turn. So you find, I don't know why the CA is not here. They need to address this because it's almost now a crisis in the market where we find that me as an investor, it took a lot of money to roll out this fiber to homes, fiber to the building, but now vandalism comes. So I don't know what policy or CA need to put in place because it will discourage some of the investors. This also go to KCB. Has been indigenous bank here for some time and I know them. I don't know, possibly I did not hear it clearly. I need to understand in this digital space, what financial models are you people offering without asking collateral? Because, for example, if I want to roll out the whole of the county and I need this so much money, you'll some of the places that I approach, they want a collateral equivalent to 1 billion. So I wonder, how do I do it? And then that one becomes a challenge for scalability. So basically, and the final question is on this guarantee issue. I know we have US fund, which is currently with CA. Every year we pay so much money from whatever revenue that we do contribute to reach out to the marginal areas. Out of that US fund, I don't know where the CA is here, can that money be plowed back to us possibly so that we can scale faster and quickly? So thank you very much.
Okay, those are 3 in 1. I think we'll take the 3 questions and then get back to the panel. You can give number 2 here. He had a question. So panelists, you have vandalism, you have USF, and the third question was finance. You guys want collateral for digital, services. Number 2.
Hi, my name is Edwin, representing ISPAC. ISPAC is Internet Service Providers of Kenya, an association that we are trying to come together and tackle the challenges that we have collectively. I think he has covered most of the questions that I had. Number 1, especially the one of KCB. I've been a customer for ages, but we cannot access because every other time they ask me, hizi cable nitauza wapi? So in case that you're not able to repay, but they do not even look at the value of the kind of infrastructure. We do not invest in lands and buildings and vehicles. We invest in infrastructure. So I would still go back to the same question. How do we, what options do they have for financing this kind of industry?
Yeah, I touched a bit on that as we go to number 3 when I said Kenyans like investing in land, and so our financial institutions have a perfect model for land investors. But if you come with stories of fiber, they may struggle a bit. Number 3 was here. If we can get your question so that we go back to the panelists.
Thank you so much. My name is Dixon from KCB, and my question goes to Thomas, Director Programs.
Just put closer to your mouth. We can't hear.
My name is Dixon from KCB. My question goes to Thomas, Director of Programs. I'd like to ask, looking at the Kenya Kwanza Government Manifesto Beta bottom-up, there are so many ISPs in the country. So what framework have you put in place during bidding process to ensure that it's not the big boys who are taking the entire cake, and there is a fair level playing ground for everyone involved?
Okay, as I go back to my panelist, I can tell you CEA is properly represented there in the crowd, but I will not unveil them, but they have listened to your question. You have the floor. I think we'll just go round the panelist. You pick the question you want to respond to, then we move to the next person. Ben.
Yeah, look, on the subject of vandalism, the industry has been calling for such a long time for critical infrastructure, protection of ICT infrastructure. And you know, there are certain protections that are put in law, and they can, you know, around protecting power infrastructure already. But also, you know, if you are having, if you're putting your money into any kind of infrastructure, you want to know that it's not going to be damaged by anybody, by a private citizen or by another government agency or by a road project that comes along. And you need to know that if you are granted a way leave for something and then we're putting a highway here, you need compensation, right? You can't expect to use your network assets as collateral for the bank here if it can be dug up. He's not going to be able to. So you need this in place for de-risking. It's the biggest policy gap that we have. But even, you know, where the law is blatantly disregarded, we have a justice system that is not sympathetic to crimes against business. In short, right? So if you are, if your property as a business is destroyed, and you go and report this as a crime to the police are not interested in they'll prosecute crimes against the person. They'll be very keen about that. But if it's crimes against the business, they're not very interested, right? So we need to have a working, you know, judicial system that protects. I mean, I think we've had a lot of. I'm feeling a lot of this community of ISPs and who are here. A lot of questions are coming here, but you know, as we roll out into last mile, it is important that our businesses, you know, business rolls out to the last mile. There are very, like the government is talking about building 1,450 ICT centers. There's no business in Kenya that has 1,450 brick and mortar branches. Not a single one. Not a single. So not even Safaricom has anywhere close. They have a lot of agents. A lot of businesses have rolled out into the last mile using agents. That's a you know, someone selling newspapers, someone selling SIM cards, someone doing M-Pesa transactions, banking transactions. So our last mile has been done at the individual level as agents. They could be sitting under a tree, under an umbrella, by the side of the road. But you know, we are going to see, as this infrastructure rolls out, there will be more digital businesses will be rolling out their business to the last mile, which includes the ISPs. You know, so one of the ISPs I'm working with is called Connect, but they're a spin-off of Coco Networks. And Coco Networks already have a last mile network of 2,000, you know, vending machines selling fuel, clean fuel all over the country. So we have a base of a last mile outlets. And I think that's where the local ISPs are going to come in as well, right? It is down to, if an area is not getting somebody coming in and, you know, if Zuku or, you know, is not putting fiber to the home there, you know, somebody is going to do that. And we're seeing all over the world, you know, even in the USA, UK, you know, where British Telecom doesn't go, somewhere in Yorkshire, there's a cooperative of farmers building their own fiber networks. So this is what we're going to see. We're going to see business people, cooperatives, anyone can build fiber networks at the last mile with enabling infrastructure.
Thank you. Thomas, you have the mic.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll pick up from what Ben Roberts has said, and I think picking up from the aspect of critical infrastructure protection unit, focusing on taking care of the critical infrastructure is one of the items that we are looking as government to ensure that this is properly enforced and ultimately get some guidelines and policies around managing this infrastructure, ICT infrastructure, which is critical. And following up to that is an intended approach in terms of when there's construction and other utilities are attached, there's normally ways of mitigating and budget towards that. As we protect water, sewerage system, roads, ICT infrastructure ought to be protected in a similar manner. Coming home to ourselves, when this fiber is vandalized intentionally, most often it is not going to be used as hanging lines. It's likely going to be used by somebody else within this particular industry to reuse or repurpose. Meaning there's some level of ethics that we need to build within the industry so that then you utilize infrastructure that is solely yours and not vandalize another to go and use for yours. And I think we're working with CA to rethink around the coding aspect. We've been talking about color codes for fiber. Probably this will help and mitigate some areas. But I think being disciplined in the industry is what will drive us to the next level, even as we look at mitigation measures. Coming to USF, I know my colleagues from CA are also here. Indeed, the USF fund has been used to be able to bridge the digital divide in unserved and underserved areas. I know the USF team have been working with MNOs to be able to reach areas that probably are not economically viable through the USF fund and build, sites. But beyond that, even as ICT authority, and I think it's a conversation that is currently ongoing, we are using that USF fund to bridge the digital divide across the 19 underserved and served countries. And we've built infrastructure, backbone infrastructure, to a tune of over 2,500 kilometers that we are currently using. The last mile project that we are doing with Kenya Power is being funded by USF. And we are targeting to do over 10,000 institutions in this first and second phase. And I must mention that in the first phase, USF gave 5 billion. In this second phase, they've done another 5B, and they are doing another 5B in the next financial year to ensure that we connect additional over 9,000 institutions across the country. And not only just within the unserved and unserved areas. Because again, when you look at mobile network, you can critically categorize where is unserved and unserved. Probably your village, your home, could fall in that category for this particular conversation. But even in the digital space, you'll still discover there are places that have not been reached. And the minister from Uganda spoke about Uganda high schools have been connected to a tune of 85%. What is the percentage that we've done in Kenya? This is the focus that currently USF has given the seed money. Ben Roberts is saying 10%, probably less. And we are focusing on trying to connect this institution, largely schools, because in it will be able also to bring opportunity to all learners where they have challenges of tutors and teachers to access digital content and also bridge the learning gap that exists between schools in the remote areas and the schools in urban areas. So this is an element that where I sit, I look at and say, yes, USF has done it well. And beyond the MNOs and tier 1 and 2 ISPs, contractors through this arrangement of last mile connectivity, through leveraging on Kenya Power infrastructure and the backbone that we did in phase 1, the same money has come back to be utilized by ourselves in the industry by increasing the backbone footprint. The question that my brother asked around, remind me your question. Yes, the bidding process, very good. And that bidding process, two things that you need to look at. We are saying it's going to be a competitive process, open, electronic. Actually, we're going to do electronic. where there'll be, she mentioned about multi-round. We'll be able to have, in the pilot phase, of course, you'll all be able to see when we open the bids, how have guys bidded. And just like an auction, you can decide and say you want to offer better than what the other person has reached. And when we don't reach our threshold, hence the multi-round approach of our reverse auction. So it's open. We are also in conversation and looking at how to empower the community networks, because that is another opportunity that we can leverage on, because there are specialized community networks that we want to grow. CS Statistics gives over 200 ISPs that have been registered. But when you look at it, probably close to 40 are active or probably supplying data or giving data on a quarterly basis to CA. In this particular digital superhighway agenda and rollout, we expect to activate all the 200 ISPs, because then you can look at your niche area and say, I want to focus on Busia and connect properly Busia County. And therefore, it's an opportunity for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 to compete equally and come up with more community networks to be able to enrich and cover the high-speed internet connectivity across the country. So there is an opportunity for all of us, whether you're tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, and even community networks have a chance to grow up. But most importantly, and I think CA will support me this, we have to be more organized and share and register for all of us to be able to work together in a very harmonious way. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Next, in case there's an unanswered question, you can take on.
I think you all mentioned everything. Just maybe one question to me.
Okay.
Vandalism for fiber optics. I know that copper is has a value itself, but why is there vandalism or theft?
I think
or it's just senseless.
some vandalism is ignorant. Some will, pinch the copper the fiber thinking it's usable elsewhere, yet it's not. But Thomas touched on it. Sometimes it's deliberate between competitors, so they are stealing from each other. The vandals who are not ignorant know what they're doing. Yeah, they'll pick it and sell it to the competitor. And it happens even in the car industry. When you're parked in Nairobi, the visitors shouldn't listen to this, but your side mirror might go, and next morning you see it with your neighbor's car. Yeah,
thanks. So the plastic ducts are also stolen. And they're used as water pipes in the slums. So if you go to Kibera,
so they repurpose
green duct, it's Safaricom, purple,
they repurpose it. Yeah, they're all sort of second-hand, options. KCB, you had a specific question on, how do you move away from traditional financing to this new kind of era financing where you're not asking for collateral, which in most cases is Mugunda. How do we help the industry to roll out expensive infrastructure from a banking perspective?
So the people who asked the question knew it was a very difficult question. So let me try. First of all, I think it's important for me to explain to you why banks ask for collateral. Yeah. And then I'll explain to you some of the options and the things we are trying to do about it. So what do banks do? We're in the business of selling money. And the money we sell is not our money. Yeah, KCB's 2 trillion shillings balance sheet has that balance sheet is funded by 2 people. Shareholders, who are you? And customers, customer deposits, basically the money in your bank accounts. So what do? We get capital from shareholders, then we get your deposits, and then that money is what we lend to other people now who need the money at a cost. Okay? Now, how do we, so when we charge say 10% or 15% interest, a portion of that money goes to the funders of the capital, which again, shareholders, you, customers, you. Okay? allow me a bit to explain. So the reason banks ask for collateral is to manage risk, because if we lose money, again, it is your money. Yeah, KCB will cease to exist, and the people who will have lost, it is the customers and shareholders, who again are you. Okay? Yeah? So the most important thing to say in this question, because I might not have a solution 100%, is that we are on the table. Yeah? We are on the table, and as I said, this is a technology event. I'm a CTO of a bank. I am here listening to business problems, and the idea is that we want to understand and we want to be part of a solution. The reason why land and fixed assets traditionally were an easier form of collateral is because of value. Yeah? That if you default and you're unable to pay, we can come and sell the building or the land and get back the money for our customers and shareholders. Okay? That's why it was easy, and it's still very easy for our teams approaching you to give you a loan a lot faster if you have a sellable asset, because then we know you, because you're a serious businessman and you're able to give us this asset, you're sure you'll pay. But in the event that you won't, then we have a way to actually recover and sort out that risk. Now, how do we solve it? Again, this is a problem for all of us to solve. I don't have a magic bullet. One, these initiatives that we are talking about, one, need to be bankable, commercially viable. Yeah? If we roll out 100,000 kilometers of fiber and there's no content on it and it's not making money, all these companies will fold up. That's why we have come and we actually have set up, we're in this ICTA project, and we want to understand from Datacon how this has been done elsewhere in the world. Are there other things that we have not thought about, so that we can learn and now begin to offer those solutions to the market. Okay? So that's what I want to say, that KCB is on the table. Come and show us the viability of your business and we'll support you. Yeah? Maybe to reiterate the answers, sorry, to the comments I made, I don't know whether you had walked in or not. So we have three different financing models today. It's the traditional model, which if you come as an ISP or contractor, that's a traditional model. You'll get market rates, you'll get access to money, and you'll go ahead and do your business. We also have development capital that has come in specifically with the international development agencies, just like ICTA, who are looking to invest in financial institutions who are supporting certain sectors. And utility is one of those sectors. For that capital that we have, $100 million that came through, it is going to be at a special rate. What? I can't tell you at this time. That's why we have our team here to then connect with you and see how we can support. And again, we are providing this in KES loans and dollar loans, depending on what type of usage you have for that money. Are you mostly importing infrastructure, therefore you need dollars? Or is it, local work, logistics, etc., that you need cash? So we in the traditional model, those are the rules. But for this partnership I've talked about, and there are several, that's just one, we are able to support businesses at a better rate. We also have, through the foundation, we get a lot of donor funding. Typically how it works is that you'll get a development agency that says, okay, KCB is willing to take a risk of 5%. Yeah. So we design the size of the book. If it's 100 million that's required to fund this program, we say, okay, KCB will take up to 5%. So any loss to businesses beyond that, someone else, takes that risk, whether it's a government guarantee or someone else to bring in that money. Again, all of these approaches are designed to ensure that as a business, we remain sustainable. And KCB is here to listen, to understand the challenges, just so that you can understand why sustainability is critical. KCB is 129 years old. 129 years. And 100 years from today, KCB will still be here. because we are not the global multinationals. If the countries we operate in ban, we ban with them. Okay, we don't have the option to fold up and go to London.
Go elsewhere.
Yeah, this is home. So the important thing is that we are on the table. We are here to understand. If the cables that are being, can we sell them if you default, or can we convert them into something else that will help us recover? So we want to listen, we want to understand, and come up with solutions that can make sure that the financing we're providing is actually sustainable.
Thank you, Dennis, for being open. It's a learning experience, and you're willing to listen to new innovative ways of rolling out your money-making business. Engineer, back to you. If there's any question that hasn't been tackled, please jump on it, or a comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe I could touch on vandalism, because KPLC has seen it all. People carry the transformers away.
I know.
Yes.
And they take the oil and make
take the oil, and also they take the copper. So it's a perennial problem for KPLC, and it is horrible. But as I said before, for the fiber cable, we are putting it above the electricity line that is carrying power. So we actually get people electrocuted.
I hope it's not deliberate.
It is not deliberate. If somebody is going to, you see, when an eagle lands on a power line, it's not executed, isn't it? Yeah. It is not electrocuted.
Touching both.
Because it doesn't touch both. So this vandal or this thief, if he's going up there, he knows what will happen. So we also do something called ring fencing. You actually bring the high tension cable and ring it around the pole, the transformer, for example. And that is what we are doing with the fiber. You are actually ring fencing it when you put it above the LV line. In the worst cases, we are putting it on top, completely on top. Like, let me just be very honest. Between Adriva and Machakos, I don't know why that place, my colleagues here will admit, that one we almost gave up. Almost carried our hands in the air.
It's chronic there.
It's chronic.
But for copper?
No. I'm talking about fiber. It is very serious. So these serious areas that we have had very serious vandalism, including the new digital, the DSH cable. We have actually put it above the line and used the technology called OPGW. It's optical power, optical ground wire. That when you use that technology, it will not be stolen, because that one, very few people understand that one. Others, majority of the thieves and whatever, they understand this other one that is coated with black, that one. So we have gone through the journey, especially after COVID. That is when vandalism became unbearable, because I think people worked from home, and then the product, the issue of internet became very important.
Demand went up.
Yes, that was a problem. So maybe also I could touch on what Jeff was talking. Was it Jeff or your colleague somewhere was talking about small ISPs?
Yeah.
I think, for example, for KPLC, we were allowed by the government to subcontract in this project. And I can tell you, even Jeff now is happy with what happens. I think the small ISP, what I can advise them in these big projects is to ensure that you don't make small mistakes when you are bidding. Don't fear. Even if you are small, put the document in order. I think that is the biggest problem we are finding when they are bidding. Maybe you can have consultants like Jeff to make sure that your document is in order. There is no any other trick. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'll take that as your final comment. We are 15 minutes beyond time, but I want to give my panelists the last word. 1 minute advice to the audience, closing remarks.
Yeah, so I think for me, as I said, I'd sort of closed, but let me take another opportunity to say, as KCB, we are on the table. We, for the ISPs and the businesses looking to understand what support you can receive, we have a stand there. So if you're still here tomorrow and Thursday, visit our stand. Our team is seated right here. If you'd like to connect, we're happy to support. Once again, we're on the table. This is our country. These are our countries. It is only us who can build our countries. We need to fight what I said, the rise of the useless class in the future. And the only way we do it is by building the digital rails, ensuring that there is digital literacy, people are getting skills to be relevant in the modern world. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Ulrike. Closing remarks, 1 minute.
Yeah, closing remark from my side. First of all, thank you very much for the engaging discussion. I would like to take the opportunity and invite whoever is interested to join the next interviews. The more you contribute, who have interest into this project during this process of our design of the commercial transaction manual, the better. The more insights, concerns we get, the better the solution is, because we have seen internationally some approaches didn't work, but each country is really different. Maybe similar, but there are different specialities, especially the vandalism in fiber optics. I didn't know.
Thank you. So there are country nuances that would, make the proposals better. You're welcome to chip in. Thomas?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And for all of us, starting with KCB, the project is bankable. So get them
bankable.
A very viable, competitive rate. And by the way, the reason why you have low internet banking customers is because of lack of connectivity.
Yeah.
So if you want to increase the internet banking customers, this is the solution. And to all of us, I want to appreciate the contribution from the panelists, my fellow panelists, and to all of you, the audience and the industry. We have a chance to transform this nation and make Kenya a digitally driven economy. And there's an opportunity through this particular engagement that we can work together to make this country a better place for us. And even in the conversation around digitization, AI and generative AI will only be meaningful when we have more customers connected, more citizens connected, because then the use cases will increase and there'll be value for money, both to the investors and innovators. Others, thank you. Looking forward to engaging further through this conversation, and I think Ulrike has already invited you so that we have a conversation together and journey through this particular process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last but not least, Ben Roberts.
Yeah, probably a last word about satellites probably would be appropriate. Satellites have always been very expensive. And we used to have a scenario where big companies could own satellites, the expensive parts, but they were very simple in the way they worked, which enabled local entrepreneurs in a particular country to run satellite systems and satellite services and profit and make decent margins on that. We now have a new business model of satellites where the systems themselves are so complicated it can't be done that way. And there is no longer significant margin opportunities to be made by local businesses in those things. There may be a few people charging a Kidogo for installing something, but there's nobody making recurring revenues. There's no businesses, operating uplinks and stuff like this. So we have a new model. So satellite is really useful and is going to be used to explore areas. But I think the priority is, we don't see this as the final solution. We see this as something we do while we do this important thing together, which is actually rolling out our own last mile rather than relying upon a very big company to provide it for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Big round of applause for the panelists. And I think that brings us to the end of the session. I don't see the MC here, but I believe it should be the photo session and handing over some gift bag to the panelists. Oh, the boss himself, you'll have the pleasure. Yeah. I've seen paparazzi. Huh? Oh, after the gifts. I hope there's one for moderator also. Oh, okay. I was getting worried.
Last but not least.
Thank you, Harry. Asante sana. So do we have